Once upon a time, in a small village, there was a very beautiful young girl named Adobe. She was the only child of her parents, and they loved her more than anything in the world. Her home was filled with peace and happiness because her parents loved each other deeply and cared for her with all their hearts. Adobe grew up in this love filled home and carried that love with her wherever she went. She made everyone around her happy with her kind heart and gentle nature. As Adobe grew older, many young men admired her beauty and good character. They wanted to marry her and came to ask for her hand in marriage, but she always said no politely. Her heart already belonged to Uzo, a hard-working hunter who she loved deeply. Uzo was not a rich man, but Adobe did not care about riches. She valued kindness and honesty, which Uzo had. Among the men who wanted Adobe's love was a rich man named Mazi Unduka. Unduka was an older man with two wives and many children. Even though he already had a family, he went after young girls in the village. Many of these girls accepted his attention because they wanted his money, but Adobe was not like them. When Unduka first approached Adobe, she told him politely that she was not interested. She hoped he would leave her alone, but he did not. Instead, he kept coming back, offering her gifts and promising her a better life. Adobe refused him every time, but Unduka did not stop. Adobe became tired and angry. She felt insulted that Unduka would not respect her wishes. One day, she told him strongly to stay away from her. She said she did not care about his money and would never choose him, even if he was the only man in the world. Unduka was shocked and hurt by her words. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Unduka's pride was deeply hurt. Her last statement got him angry. Maidens were always excited to be with him because of his money, but Adobe did not only turn him down. She said even if he was her only option, she would rather remain single. He felt reduced to nothing. With all his wealth, she still made him feel like he was not worthy of her. This got Unduka really angry, and he vowed within himself to make life miserable for her, so that even if a weak old man comes for her hand in marriage, she would accept him without thinking twice. Late at night, under the cover of darkness, Unduka went to Adobe father's farmland. He carried with him a charm that had been made to take the life of anyone who stepped on the land. He buried it in the soil, ensuring that it was well hidden and would do its evil work without suspicion. The next morning, unaware of the danger that awaited them, Adobe's parents went to the farm. They had planned to harvest yams and gather fresh vegetables for their meals. As they stepped onto the farmland, both of them collapsed and died. A passerby who happened to be walking along the path near the farmland noticed their lifeless bodies and raised alarm. The tragic news spread quickly through the village and soon reached Adobe's ears. At that moment, her world fell apart. Before her parents left for the farm that morning, her mother had asked her to split some firewood for cooking. Adobe had been busy with this task when someone rushed to her hut with the heartbreaking news. They had left in good health that morning, and now they were gone forever. The weight of their sudden death crushed Adobe's spirit. She was consumed by grief, and the once vibrant and joyful girl became a shadow of herself. Uzo tried his best to comfort her and stayed by her side during those difficult days. But the pain was too deep that even his love and support could not erase the emptiness she felt inside. One day, as Adobe made her way to the market, Mazi Unduka approached her, pretending to show concern. He offered to support, but Adobe saw through his act. She knew his intentions were not pure and was still trying to get her affection. She angrily rejected his offer and walked away. Mazi Unduka watched her walk away angrily. He had seen Uzo around her often since the death of her parents. Unduka had always thought that Uzo was nothing but a poor man who could not provide the kind of comforts her parents once gave her. But he realized that Uzo may be making her comfortable, so he came up with a plan to eliminate Uzo. In the quiet stillness of the night, Mazi Unduka quietly went to Uzo's small hut. His heart was cold and full of malice as he buried a charm at Uzo's doorstep. The charm was designed to bring death to anyone who came into contact with it. Satisfied with his evil deed, Unduka left, confident that his plan would succeed. The next morning, the village was shaken by the terrible news. Uzo had been found lifeless at the entrance of his hut. His sudden death sent waves of grief through the village, but none felt the pain as deeply as Adobe. She was already struggling with the loss of her parents, and now Uzo, the only source of comfort in her life, was gone too. Uzo's death added a heavy burden to Adobe's heart. She was consumed by sorrow and confusion. Why was she losing the people she loved the most? Why was her life filled with so much pain? After Uzo's burial, Adobe withdrew completely from the society. She rarely left her hut, spoke to no one, and spent her days in silence. Fear began to creep into her heart. She felt as though death was following her, and it was only a matter of time before it claimed her too. One day, Mazi Unduka came to Adobe's hut, carrying food items, pretending to be a caring friend. But Adobe wanted nothing to do with him. The sight of him disgusted her, and his presence filled her with anger. She refused his gifts and told him to stay away from her and her home. Mazi Unduka left, but at midnight he returned to Adobe's hut with a charm. This time he buried a charm of madness close to her hut. He intended for Adobe to lose her sanity, thinking that if he couldn't have her, he would destroy her completely. Satisfied with his actions, he left, confident that his evil plan would soon take effect. Shortly after Unduka left, Adobe woke up from a vivid dream. In the dream, she saw her late parents, warning her not to step outside her hut. The dream felt so real that it brought back memories of her parents. She began to cry, and she cried herself back to sleep. As morning came, Adobe woke up again, not because it was morning, but because that same dream returned. Her parents' warning even felt more urgent this time. Deeply unsettled, she decided to take the dream seriously and resolved not to step outside her hut. That evening, Mazi Unduka returned to Adobe's compound, eager to confirm if the charm had worked. He expected to see Adobe mad, but to his surprise, the compound was silent. Determined to check for himself, he went close to the entrance of her hut. The moment his feet touched the spot he had buried the charm, the spirit of the charm took hold of him. He began tearing his clothes, laughing uncontrollably, and dancing wildly as madness consumed him. Unduka ran out of Adobe's compound, completely overcome by the madness he had intended for her.